So I entitled this Tipping an Arc of Dormant Living. I got started on seed saving in 1996, back in the recent ancient days when I was an undergraduate student at the University of Georgia. I was growing out seeds from the Southern Seed Legacy, started by Drs. Robert Rhodes and Virginia Nazarea, who years later became my doctoral advisors. They were anthropologists under the assumption that garden variety seeds were nearly useless, or at least a whole lot less interesting, without the human stories that went along with them. Those that told you how and when to plant, what pests to look for and counteract, how to harvest and prepare delicious, familiar culinary concoctions, and what songs and tales to tell when sharing with others. These pass-along cultural dimensions went back about 10,000 years in the human story, yet were being largely ignored by plant scientists, bent on storing seeds out of context to provide breeding material for giant biotech corporations and their governmental allies. Billions of dollars were and continue to be poured into such projects. Yet the progenitors and stewards of the world's agricultural biodiversity, most conspicuously indigenous people and women, were ignored or considered anachronistic. A counter movement of heirloom seed savers and their allies rose up to preserve what was being ignored, but represented a drop in the bucket compared to the unrelenting progress of modernity and big agribusiness. Dr. Nazarea developed the methodology of cultural memory banking, the gathering of oral histories to complement the collection of seeds. The Southern Seed Legacy had a backup lab refrigerator of seeds, but also recordings and transcripts of the knowledge maintained by growers. And crucially, there was a mission to get the seeds into the hands of future generations of growers through a network of seed savers and annual seed swaps. This has been ongoing in one form or another for nearly 30 years. When I returned to grad school in 2013, my mission became to document the seeds and stories of Western North Carolina and contribute to ongoing indigenous and local seed saving efforts. I traveled to nearly every county, interviewed many old-time seed savers as I could, and collected samples of their seeds during my thesis and dissertation work. Even at that time, multi-generational seed savers were tough to find. Their average age was 70 years old, and most of them cultivated tiny plots way back in hard-to-reach hollers. It sounds a bit romantic or essentialist, but was truly the case. Nearly all of those folks are now passed on to whatever awaits us at the end of our human journey. I have told their stories with permission and shared their seeds as much as I've been able over the past 2 decades. In this way, perhaps something of their spirit is living on through my work, which feels rewarding to me as a person. The process has greatly enriched my life and made it a good bit more interesting than it might have been otherwise. I am in their debt, personally, professionally, and spiritually. When the hurricane struck, I don't know if any of us knew what to think. It was so sudden and unexpected that there wasn't much time to prepare. After 3 hours of relentless rain at the peak of the storm, the only thing I could think of was to pray to a higher power. I wasn't necessarily thinking about seeds. I was just thinking about whether I was going to survive and trying to get right with that moment. Several hours after the storm broke, my father made an unadvised and risky trip up my washed-out driveway to check on me. He peeked into the door of my barn and said, "Take a look in there, son." The back wall had collapsed, and the whole room was covered in at least 3 feet of muck. The rear of the building was a pile of concrete and mud over 5 feet high. The Southern Seed Legacy lab refrigerator and 20-year-old freezer containing seeds collected during my research and replicated in grow-outs over the years were severely compromised. Mud and debris caked the bottom of the fridge up to a lower shelf, and the freezer was unplugged, open, and tipped sideways on a wet mound of dirt and broken tools. I feel like I nearly died with the freezer full of seeds. 2 women were killed on my road during the storm, and many others barely managed to escape with their lives. Another hour or 2 of that volume, of rain at that volume, and I don't think any of us would have made it. It would have been another Noah's flood. We managed to recover all but 5 to 10% of the seeds with many helping hands, including several people who are here today. I'm convinced that's one of the most important aspects of our work. The way that seeds bring people together, make them curious, and promote the sharing of human community. I'm grateful to be among those who have listened to the stories of the seeds, and I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you. If I could call LuAnna to come up. And we're gonna try to sing a little ballad I wrote. So I have to give an acknowledgement first off. It's called Freezer Full of Seeds, but the refrain and the chorus says, I don't want to die with a freezer full of seeds, which I got from our friend Chris Smith from a wonderful article that he wrote in The Guardian, if you haven't checked that out. And so he gave me permission to use that line. And then when I'd forgotten, and then the article came out, and then these lyrics just came to me. So we'll give it a shot. I don't want to die with the freezer full of seeds. I just want to grow food to meet our people's needs. You could bring hurricanes and fires and floods and weeds, but I don't want to die with a freezer full of seeds. Take you a seed and plant it in the ground. Sing you a song, the plants, they like the sound. You could dig trenches, straight rows, or build a mound, making your groceries as the seasons they go round. Share 'em with friends, neighbors, or foes. Peace will come when everybody grows. 'Tis the wisdom the land has always known. Hope it comes wherever seeds are sown. I don't want to die with a freezer full of seeds. I just want to grow food to meet our people's needs. You could bring hurricanes and fires and floods and weeds, but I don't want to die with a freezer full of seeds. Seeds are sacred, they come from a higher power. When the moon is ripe to plant, it is the hour. Fruit and bread, both, they come from flour. Sheathe your swords, children, become a humble plower. I don't want to die with a freezer full of seeds. I just want to grow food to meet our people's needs. You could bring hurricanes and fires and floods and weeds, but I don't want to die with a freezer full of seeds. I don't want to die with a freezer full of seeds. All right.
Good job.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate that. Very good job, LuAnna. Very good job. All right, so I just wanted to end. That's sort of, it has hope, but it's kind of bluesy too. That the alchemy of a blues ballad. But I wanted to just share one little story about a seed that I collected many years ago from about 2004 in Bald Mountain in Yancey County from the Bradford family, Ernie and Derek, and they gave me this rough bark candy roaster squash, which Utopia might be growing some out this year. And they were insistent that this was, and you know, there's a lot of discussion about candy roasters. I'm not saying this is the absolute truth, but in their opinion, it was the most old-timey kind of candy roaster, and they differentiated it from slick roasters that didn't have this real sort of rough bark, and it's excellent storing squash. I mean, and it can get big. I grew one that was 70 pounds, no joke, one time, and it stores very well, and it's also incredibly sweet, and it has this rough bark. And it occurred to me that maybe the rough bark candy roaster is like a lot of people in these mountains, a little bit rough on the outside and nice and sweet on the inside. So.